This is a pumpkin. I know you guys saw the title and thumbnail, and that is right. I will be turning this pumpkin into a fingerboard. One of my favorite YouTube channels is the YouTube channel called Marco. That's the name of him and the channel. This guy can pretty much turn anything into a shoe, including a pumpkin. If this guy can turn a pumpkin into a shoe, I'm pretty sure we might be able to possibly turn it into a fingerboard. How did I go from teaching people how to kickflip to turning a pumpkin into a fingerboard? We need to teach the pumpkin the potential it has to become a fingerboard. Imagine living your entire life as a pumpkin and then you get turned into a fingerboard. I can't tell whether that's sick or like terrifying. Something that Marco did to turn a pumpkin into a shoe was just cut a thin layer of the pumpkin skin kind of off of the pumpkin, and then he was able to kind of paste it together into the shoe. I am kind of thinking we're gonna do the same thing, except just turn it into a fingerboard and not a shoe. The skin of this pumpkin is so tough. The pumpkin skin is off of the pumpkin, and you can see there's still like a lot of kind of like flesh still on the pumpkin. So right now I'm just gonna try and cut away as much of this as possible. It's kind of hard to cut this away because as I'm like working with it, it's kind of flexing all over the place, and I can't really get like a nice even cut across the entire thing. It's definitely getting a lot better now. I cut away a little bit too much. I think I'm aiming to try and get everything that kind of orange color. We're making some progress. You should also listen to what the pumpkin says. If you also use your imagination, it doesn't just say subscribe, it also says like the video. Look at how majestic this looks. Basically the idea now is I'm just gonna take a bunch of these and layer them all together. And in theory, that should be able to create a fingerboard. But first, we gotta carve a lot of pumpkin. I was trying to cut the pumpkin a little bit thinner, and it's so difficult to get like a nice clean edge. I can't get more than this much off before the knife kind of just takes over and cuts this much off, but this isn't enough to create a fingerboard. I'm gonna switch to this knife in hopes I can kind of like get into the pumpkin and then start using it kind of as a saw just to be a little more consistent. And then the blade also won't do this. I got all the pumpkin skin off of the pumpkin, and this is what we have. These all look pretty good, but the pumpkin, however, has definitely seen better days. By better days, I'm talking about like 30 minutes ago. This part of the pumpkin is starting to kind of like curl in, which definitely isn't good. I think I'm gonna lay all these pieces down and then place something heavy on top just so they can dry like completely flat. I'm gonna let these sit for probably like 24 hours. Then when we come back, we should have some nice flat pumpkin pieces. The pumpkin skins have been sitting under these boards for a little over 24 hours now, and we have something different. Right now, these are still flexible, and I kind of don't want them to dry out anymore to the point where they're kind of fragile. This is the mold I'm gonna put pumpkin in. I never thought I would put pumpkin in a fingerboard mold, but here we are. Even if we put all these layers together and flex it, it's still very flexible, which is kind of bad. We don't really want to pop the board and have nothing to pop. So this is a piece of pumpkin veneer. If you don't think pumpkin veneer is a real thing, look at that. That is proof. Look at how much that resembles like the stem of the pumpkin. Still don't believe me? Check this out. Yeah, you believe me now? So I'm gonna put the veneer in between the pumpkin layers so it's a lot more solid. I heard so much cracking when I pushed that down. I'm using super glue because I have no idea what other type of glue would stick to pumpkin. But that also means we need to work so fast. I have no idea if this works. This is definitely not exactly what we want, but we're getting somewhere. I'm gonna add another piece of pumpkin veneer. This is just like a different type of pumpkin, I guess. If we can get like the basic shape of the board, that's what I want. I am hoping this worked. This is what you want to see. Right now the board isn't incredibly strong, but I think once we add the other layers, it's going to be a lot better. This looks amazing. I think I'm just gonna put this layer on the bottom and then it'll be done. This is starting to look like a fingerboard. Crazy I'm setting up a fingerboard that used to be a pumpkin. It is time for the kickflip test. Can we actually land a kickflip first try? That was terrible. Can we land a kickflip second try? There we go. How was the fingerboard once a pumpkin? This might be one of my favorite fingerboards I've ever made. I know I say that about pretty much every board I make, but this one's just really cool. If I can turn a pumpkin into a fingerboard, I don't know what else I can do. Drop a comment right now on a completely random thing I could potentially turn into a fingerboard. I want to see what sort of challenge you guys have. New Gripsion fingerboards will be the first link in the description. I appreciate your guys' dedication to watch me turn a pumpkin into a fingerboard, and I will see you guys next time.